Okay, so again, very fast. I brought the same DGN from the site plan property line, and it should be aligned so the north makes sure it's properly set, etc. So from here we're going to start building the parametric volumes. So I'm going to do like 3 volumes, very simple. And for now I'm going to do it like by eye, and then I'm going to add those parameters. Okay. So the way to do that, as you know, is just starting always first selecting the base, then selecting the lines that you want to work, and I'm just going to do it in the middle without really relating to the side. I'm going to select that and say create form. There you go. It doesn't really matter how high it is, but I know it's a tower, so I can take it up a little bit. And I'm going to do the atrium, so I'm going to just do another rectangle, and I'm going to do at the same time the gym. Okay, I'm going to select the first one and create the form, and I'm going to select the second one and create the form as well. Okay, that for now could be a bit higher, but doesn't really matter. So okay, this is a very simple configuration of the 3 volumes that we're looking for. So how do we add parameters into this? So this is how it works. What you do is always place a dimension. So you go to create and you have the dimensions. You can say align, and you can press on the planes. So make sure that the plane that it turns blue is the one that you want to measure from. So I'm going to measure from this plane to this other plane. Okay. Now that plane, between those 2 planes, is 143 feet 6 inches. But I want to make that dimension parametric. So you select it, and you set it to add parameter here in the new tab that appears in the top, and automatically it pops up this little window, and you just have to give a name. So think of what dimension this is. So it's going to be like tower, and I'm going to simplify. You should probably name it properly, like length, width, etc. But I'm going to call it all the kind of a direction in the X direction. I'm going to call them length. So I'm going to say L. And then automatically that dimension will change if I get closer to tower L 143 feet 6 inches. So it's different from a normal dimension, no? Different in the sense, if I press this button called family types, this is the way to see all the parameters that you have created. For now I only have created 1. This is a default one, doesn't really matter. It's called Tower L as I named it. So if you want to rename it, you can always say modify, and it pops up the same windows before. You can call it W or Pepe or whatever you want, okay? But you can also change the number. If I say 160 here and I say apply, you see how the volume changes. If I say 50, apply, the volume changes. So this is the power of the parametric tools, and pretty much everything that I'm going to do from now on is just controlling these parameters. Okay, apply and go. What other things can we do? Well, we can also align. Use the align tool, which is under the modify tools. As you know, is this little guy. AL is the shortcut. You can select planes, reference planes, not other lines, reference planes, and select other planes that they will be aligned to it. And then you can say, hey, I want you to be locked. That means that that plane and that reference planes are always going to be in the same location. So if I change the parameter for tower L, I can now say 160 and apply, and it cannot change from this side because it's constrained to the reference plane. It will change automatically the other one, no? Okay, I'm going to do the same for the width and the length of the 3 buildings that we have. So I'm going to say dimension. I'm going to select one plane, then the other one, and I'm going to place it out here. Okay, and I'm going to select it. I'm going to say add parameter. I'm going to call this one tower W, and okay, and again it changes there. And if I go to the parameters, there's a new one, tower W, that I can change. I can say 90 or 100 and apply, and it will change automatically. Okay, good. Imagine that we want the building to be always in the line front of the street. So I will use the align tool, AL, select the reference plane and then the plane, so it goes there and lock it. That way, whenever I change the dimension tower W, it will always change from the back. Okay, again, let's say 50, apply, and there it comes to the front. 80, apply, goes to the back. Okay, let's move on. More. Dimension, plane to plane, in, and I'm going to do several of them now. Plane, in, plane to plane, out or in, whatever it is. Plane to plane, out. Now this doesn't have to be beautiful, it just has to be clear. For example, this dimension could be actually moved over there because it makes more sense, no? So it starts to be a bit clearer. I'm going to do all the parameters for each of them. So I know this is the atrium, so I'm going to select this dimension and I'm going to set a new parameter, add parameter. I'm going to call it atrium, and this is going to be L, the same as the tower, okay? Select this one, add parameter. This is the gym, L. I'm going to add another parameter for the atrium width, and another parameter for the gym width, okay? Okay, so just be careful that if you start creating parameters like crazy, it could be tricky, because if you don't test them, like by changing the numbers and see if this is really working, like 120, apply and see that it's changing, this could be a mess afterwards. So I would recommend that every time you do a parameter or create a new parameter, that you test it and see that it's working, okay? Now the gym, I want it to be towards the front. In my case, I'm going to align to this reference plane, that one, and lock it. Okay, I'm going to align it to this, but I don't have a reference plane here. So I'm going to select the reference plane and press Control and bring it back exactly there. So I can use it now as a align tool. So I'm going to say align to this reference plane, this element, lock it. Okay. The gym, I want it to be aligned to the back, so I need another reference plane there. So I'm going to select this reference plane, bring it back by pressing Control. When it snaps, we're good to align this face to this one. Whoops, sorry. Align to this reference, this face, and lock. Okay. Good. So let me test that it works a bit properly by changing some numbers. Let's say atrium L. I'm going to make it 100. It's going to be, I don't know, like 80. This is going to be 150, 140. So I'm changing all the parameters at the same time. If I say apply, the whole thing should change. You see? It's like pop, pop, pop. Sounds like a parametric city that you could organize the height and the widths of each of the parameters. Things that I could do with this. Well, I want always, for example, the atrium to be touching the tower. So I'm going to say dimension, DI, and I'm going to go from these reference planes. Another thing that you could have trouble with is that if you do a dimension line and it comes in a direction you're not comfortable with, that means that you selected a reference plane that was vertical in that case. But you could have selected one of the planes on top of a building. So just make sure you select the plane and then you press the dimensioning and you say from these two. There you go. Okay, so now that's going to be locked. So you can lock dimensions. If you lock them, that means that these two reference planes that you were measuring from will never be able to change. No? I can also create another parameter for the overall and call it something like side and call it L, because the entire side. No. Now here comes a little bit of the mathematics. It's super simple, so you shouldn't have any problem. Instead, I need to say that, hey, the atrium L plus the tower L should be equal to the site L. So how can we do that? In a way, we cannot do the plusing thing, but we could say that the site L minus the tower should always be the atrium L. No? So let's see how we can do that. If the site L is this, we don't want to change that, but we can use that as if it was the X in our formula. No? So we're going to copy that, site L, and we're going to say that the tower L should always be the difference between these two. Okay, so let's say tower L equals, and that's where we change the formula, and I paste. It's going to be equal to site L minus, so we just spacebar, the minus sign, spacebar, and we place atrium L. So we can now, okay, no spacebar. Atrium L, no? Let's see, because if you don't type it exactly, it doesn't make it properly. So there it is. Automatically, the tower L and the first number become gray. That means that that number is not controlling anymore that parameter. It's actually the formula behind it. Now, if I change the atrium L configuration, like here is, instead of 100, I would be changing the formula, like 175. Apply, and automatically the tower will change with it. So somehow I'm changing, from changing one parameter, I'm changing actually two parameters at the same time. No? Good. How can we place some height parameters? We could also set, for example, a constraint parameter, like the distance from this plane, which is the the limit of the side, to the gym should always be something. I don't know. You could do that as simple as doing a dimension, di, and you say di. You say from this plane to the reference plane, and you place a dimension here, should be log in a specific number. No, so you can first, for example, change it. Here's something I haven't talked about. Can I change like volumes by changing dimensions as in the projects? Yes, I can tap and select the plane, and automatically when you select something in Revit, the dimensions that are related to it turn blue. So that means that I can change the dimension number and say, let's say 15. That will change automatically the volume. And that happens also when you're doing a project and you have walls. You can select the wall, a dimension turns blue, you change the dimension and the wall moves with it. Okay, say 25, etc., etc. Okay, I'm going to make the atrium a bit bigger. So I'm going to go to parameters again, and the atrium Y is going to be like 100, and I want the tower L to be bigger, so that means that atrial L to be smaller, so that's going to be 160. Okay, or even less, 140. Okay, so we only have left a little bit of vertical parameters. How could we do that? Okay, parameters in the vertical dimension, it's as simple as going to the elevations. Okay, we go to elevations, double click, and we set di for dimensioning top to bottom, we move, top to bottom, we move, top to bottom, we move. Okay, each of them should be proclaimed as parameters, add parameter, and we're going to call it tower H, and I'm going to call it 1 because I know there's going to be a 2 afterwards. This is going to be a parameter. It's going to be the, I believe it's the gym, H as in height, and again a parameter, it's going to be the atrium H. Okay, that's good because if we go to the 3D, we can easily now change through the parameter settings also the H conditions. No, it's just the tower could be 200 and apply, and it will go up. No, so again, think of all the potential from changing dimensions directly. No, the gym L could be I don't know, 75, and the site L we're not changing because that's constrained. And I want to change the atrium L as well. No, atrium L H, sorry. there is to 35, for example. There you go. So everything works properly and is good. If I want to create, for example, like another piece, I'm actually going to talk that in the next video, but I think this could be a good beginning point to understand parameters. Okay.